Apparently, spending thousands of hours driving trucks to American Truck Simulator does not prepare one for SnowRunner. Because within our first real experience, Mrs. BadMae and I managed to get stuck, take questionable routes, misunderstand what our trucks were capable of, and turn what looked like a simple task into an operation that went on for hours. But here's the thing. When we finally completed the task, it felt more rewarding than almost anything I've done in a trucking game in a long time. And that is when SnowRunner started to make sense. What's going on, everybody? Mr. BadMae here. Most of you know me from American Truck Simulator and Euro Truck Simulator 2. I spend a lot of time covering updates, reviewing trucks, mods, hauling freight, and generally trying to keep everything shiny side up, as well as competing in multiple leaderboards. But today, we're leaving the pavement behind. Mrs. BadMae and I recently jumped into SnowRunner and played some of the new Season 18 content. And I want to be clear before we start. I'm not presenting myself as a SnowRunner expert. This footage is probably going to prove the exact opposite, actually. So going into SnowRunner, I thought I had a pretty good idea of what the game would be. You pick up cargo, you drive it somewhere, you manage your truck, try not to damage anything along the way. It sounded familiar enough. It is still trucking after all. I expect the SnowRunner to feel like a slower, muddier, off-road version of the truck simulators I already play. Technically, that is true, but it does not fully explain the experience. In ATS, most of the challenge is centered around operating the truck, following the road, managing the trailer, not hitting any AI, or getting them to avoid you. In SnowRunner, the route itself is often the biggest challenge. You're not simply asking, how do I reach the destination, what's the optimal route, should I take this cargo, that cargo, etc. You're asking, can this truck survive the mud? Is the water deeper than it appears either in person or on the map? Do I have enough traction? Do I have the right wheels? Should we take the obvious route or try something completely different? Can one of us pull the other through whatever we run into? And what exactly is the rescue plan when we both get stuck? That change in mindset hit me almost immediately. In ATS, I can usually look at a delivery and understand what's expected, and kind of predict the road along the way. In SnowRunner, even a short task can turn into an entire adventure, and honestly, a real nightmare. One of the things I love most so far is that every challenge can be approached in different ways. There does not seem to be one perfect route or one single correct way to complete a task, or a particular truck, to do everything. It's like maybe you can bring a stronger truck, or maybe you bring a smaller truck. Maybe you take a longer route with safer terrain. Maybe you can use a scout vehicle. Maybe one player carries the cargo while the other acts as support. Maybe we should use a winch, reposition, change trucks, or build an entire rescue plan around one bad decision. And sometimes the plan that should work does not work. That flexibility makes the game feel unpredictable. It also makes every failure feel like part of the problem-solving process. When something goes wrong, the game does not always tell you that you failed. Instead, it asks you what you're going to do next. Are you recovering the truck? Are you bringing in another vehicle? Are you unloading the cargo? Are you going to pull yourself out? Or are you stubborn enough to spend another hour trying to save the situation? There is a confidence that comes from playing ATS. You understand how a truck moves, you know how to approach a corner, control a trailer, maintain momentum, and avoid putting yourself in a bad position. SnowRunner takes that confidence and slowly buries it 6 feet in the mud. Momentum still matters, but too much throttle can make everything worse. Picking a route still matters, but the obvious route may not be the best one. Truck selection matters, tire matters. Suspension matters, ground clearance matters, and where you place your wheels matter. Sometimes the smartest decision is to move at a speed that would make an ATS traffic jam feel exciting. That was one of the biggest adjustments for myself. My ATS instincts tell me that the objective is to keep moving and complete the haul, typically as fast as possible. SnowRunner says the objective is to avoid making one bad decision that creates 3 new recovery missions. We definitely created a few recovery missions ourselves. The biggest thing that has stood out to me so far in SnowRunner is the co-op experience. Playing SnowRunner with the missus did not just make the game more entertaining, it changed how the entire experience felt. There was a real sense of teamwork. We were constantly talking through what we should do next. Which route should we take? Who should go first? Should one of us bring the cargo while the other follows behind? Should one truck pull the other through the section? Should we turn around? Should we recover? That's where you recall your vehicle to the garage. Can we save this situation without starting over? And of course, the most dangerous question in SnowRunner, do you think we can make it? Most of the time, the honest answer was probably no. But we tried anyways. And that's where some of the best moments can come from. In ATS multiplayer, you can drive together, haul together, enjoy the road together. But in SnowRunner, you actually depend on each other. One person may be carrying the cargo while the other is scouting the route. One truck may be stuck while the other becomes the rescue vehicle. One of you may have a stronger truck while the other is trying to keep the entire operation from falling apart. You're not simply driving beside each other, you're working together to solve the problem and get the mission complete. That made the experience feel much more personal and memorable and really create some exciting moments. SnowRunner can make one task last for hours. Now that can sound frustrating, and sometimes it absolutely is. But when you finally finish something you've been working on for that long, there's a real sense of accomplishment. Not the kind where the game simply tells you that a mission is complete. It feels like you earned it. You remember everything that went wrong. You remember getting stuck. You remember choosing the wrong route. You remember bringing out another truck. You remember trying to rescue the rescue truck. You remember getting close to the destination and wondering whether something else was about to go wrong. Then you finally deliver the cargo, find the tower, etc. And there's this moment where you both realize we actually did it. That feeling has probably been the biggest surprise for me so far. In ATS, a delivery can be relaxing and satisfying, but I've completed enough deliveries that the process is familiar. In SnowRunner, even reaching the destination can feel like a victory. The task itself may have looked simple at the beginning, but by the end, you have created an entire story around it. And because Mrs. BadMae and I worked through it together, completing it felt like a shared accomplishment. That is something SnowRunner does extremely well. SnowRunner seems like one of those games where you do not need to manufacture moments for a video. The game creates them for you. You start with a basic plan, you pick up the cargo, you follow the route, you complete the delivery. Then somebody gets stuck. The second truck comes over to help. That truck gets stuck too. Then someone tips over. The cargo falls off, fuel becomes a concern, the route you selected turns out to be unusable, and before long, the delivery is not even the main story anymore. The story is everything that went wrong while you were trying to complete it. That is what I find interesting from a content perspective. Every task has the potential to become something completely different depending on the choices we make. The challenge is not simply whether we complete the mission, it is how we complete it and how much chaos happens along the way. So, what's our first impressions of Season 18? We jumped in just a week or so after Season 18 started, and visually, the environment is impressive. It's amazing. You have thick vegetation, you've got mud, water, narrow routes, terrain that constantly looks more manageable than it actually is. You've got mangroves to drive through. You've got water that's very questionable. You've got rapids that push you down the rivers. You name it, Season 18 probably has it. Coming from ATS, I'm used to large environments designed around roads and long-distance travel. SnowRunner feels more concentrated. A relatively small area can contain several different problems, and every section of terrain demands your attention. The map is not simply scenery between where you begin and where you need to go. The map is the gameplay. That is something I did not fully appreciate until I started playing. I'm still far too new to tell experienced SnowRunner players where Season 18 ranks among the other regions. I do not have that frame of reference just yet. But from a new player's perspective, the terrain is visually interesting, immediately challenging, and constantly forcing us to adapt. So what do I like so far? The first thing I like is the co-op experience. There's a genuine feeling of working together instead of simply playing the same game in the same area. The second thing I like is the freedom. There are multiple ways to solve almost every problem in every mission. The game gives you room to experiment and fail. You can change vehicles, routes, equipment, and strategies. Sometimes creativity matters just as much as driving skill. The third thing I like is a sense of accomplishment. When a task takes hours and requires both of you to solve multiple problems along the way, finally completing it feels significant. And it makes the future task even easier. The fourth thing is I like how naturally the game creates memorable moments. Even when everything goes wrong, it usually becomes something you can laugh about later. So, what are some things I'm unsure about? Not everything immediately clicked for me. SnowRunner can be extremely slow. I understand that patience and careful terrain management are part of the appeal, but there are moments when deliberate gameplay can start to feel tedious. A mistake can cost a significant amount of time, and when you're new, you make plenty of mistakes. The game also throws a lot of information at you without always making it obvious what matters most. What truck should I get? What upgrades should I prioritize? Which routes are actually safe? What task should I complete first? Experienced players probably answer those questions automatically, but as a new player, there is a real learning curve. The handling also requires an adjustment. SnowRunner is not trying to recreate the same experience as ATS, so I do not expect the trucks to feel identical. But coming from my wheel setup in a road-focused simulator, I need to focus more time to understand how the vehicles are supposed to feel, what settings work best, and how much of my struggle is the game versus just my lack of experience. So, is SnowRunner going to replace American Truck Simulator for me? No, not at all. But I do not think it needs to. ATS gives me the open road trucking experience. I can haul from point A to point B, have a relaxing time going down the interstate or the highway, long hauls, real-world inspired trucks, customization, highway driving, and the feeling of being on the road. SnowRunner offers something completely different. It is part trucking game, part problem solving, and part cooperative survival storytelling, starring heavy machinery. ATS asks whether you can deliver the cargo professionally. SnowRunner asks whether the cargo, the truck, your teammate, and your patience will survive the journey. There's enough overlap for trucking fans to understand the appeal. But the experience is different enough that I can see both games having a place on my channel. So my final thoughts. After my first real session, I understand the appeal of SnowRunner much better than I did before. It is slow, it can be frustrating, it can be confusing, and it is extremely good at punishing overconfidence. But it is also unpredictable, rewarding, and generally fun with another person. What has impressed me the most is not simply the off-road driving, it's the way that co-op changes every task. It is the freedom to approach the same challenge in completely different ways, and it is the feeling you get when you finally complete something after spending hours working through every problem the game throws at you. When Mrs. BadMae and I finally finished a difficult task, it did not feel like we had simply completed another mission. It felt like we accomplished something together, and that is the part of SnowRunner I want to experience more of. But for now, I want to hear from the experienced SnowRunner players. What's the biggest mistake you saw us make? What should we prioritize next? What is the one piece of advice you wish somebody had given you when you first started playing? Let me know down in the comments. As always, thank you for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed watching an ATS veteran get humbled by the mud. Subscribe if you want to see more SnowRunner alongside of our regular ATS and ATS2 content. And we will see you in the next one. Take care.